The Vikings belonged to a medieval Nordic civilization housed in Scandinavia that is characterized by the Viking Age, from 793 to 1066 CC, speakers of Old Norse language. They were well known to be violent barbarians that ransacked towns, raped women, and were generally not nice people. However, this concept of the Vikings was written by the Europeans that the Vikings were raiding, so there's more than a little bit of historical bias in the Nordic history that we commonly know today.
The Vikings were a very rough and tumble group of people by today's standards. They believed in a polytheistic religion that is sometimes compared to ancient Greek religion when they are not really dissimilar at all, but that is a topic for another raid. Among the main gods, Odin, Thor, Freya, and Loki. The Northmen, as they were dubbed by the Europeans, partook in ultra-pagan rituals and sacrifices to their gods. Yes, the Vikings sacrificed many living things, including their own farm animals, and people. Every 9 years on an agricultural festival known as Blot, entire towns would travel to remote religious monuments and eat, party, and feast. The next morning, wealthy, willing men were sacrificed to the gods, their blood collected and painted onto priests. Some female servant slaves would kill themselves or ask to be gutted so they can join their master with the gods in Valhalla. Vikings wore standard medieval clothing made from animal skin or fur, and most civilians were farmers. In their society, there existed three main classes: the nobles, the freemen, and the slaves. A key point in Viking society is that the treatment of women in comparison to the rest of the European world. Women weren't held from ruling positions, and they were widely encouraged to take up arms to fight for their people. They could inherit property and request divorce. Monogamy was not widely enforced in Nordic communities, and men, especially of high fame, often had multiple lovers. Vikings actively enjoyed warfare and pillaging, and dying in battle was considered one of the greatest honors, as it would grant you access into Valhalla, the Norse equivalent of heaven.
The Vikings have a long and very brutal history with Europe as a whole. Many believe the Viking raids spawned from the spread of Christianity into Scandinavia under Charlemagne's rule. This put a divide between people, with the Vikings being pagans and Christians refusing to work or trade with them. Vikings first raided the British Isles in 793, right before it turned into the 9th century. Britain was prone to Viking raids and constant pillaging of cities. While Ireland also saw much pillaging along its coast, many Viking settlements would help facilitate trade and later be key in Ireland's economy. Most other coastal European countries would encounter the terror of Viking raids. They would conquest into Russia, leaving almost no part of Europe untouched. While yes, they were mostly known for their vicious raids, most Vikings were merchants and explorers. They traded and sought adventure throughout Europe and helped spread culture along their travels. Through the Vikings' wide travels and conquest, many Viking settlements arose and grew. These settlements would go on to shape the empires they lie in today. For example, in Ireland, the Vikings settled early Dublin, Limerick, Cork, Waterford, and Wexford. Dublin especially would go on to become a major European trading post and would see prosperity far into Ireland's future. The Viking also conquered all of Britain, leaving behind huge impacts on the culture with names and even language. They saw to conquering every country in the British Isles. Elsewhere and earlier in Europe, early Scandinavians traveled to and set up major settlements throughout Iceland. Greenland had a settlement established by Eric the Red later, after he was banished from Iceland for manslaughter. The Viking settlement in Francia led to the modern-day region of Normandy. Overall, Viking settlements would grow far into their civilization lives and still be parts of them today. Long after the Vikings have left, their impact is felt on the lands they've reached.
Although the Vikings are primarily known for their barbaric and unmerciful raids, most of the Viking history was written by raid victims, so they're biased. The Vikings are described as extremely barbaric and uncivilized people, and while it is partially true that they were aggressive on the battlefield, they also had great influences in Europe and other parts of the world. They formed strong economies by establishing efficient trade routes and setting up trade posts open to growth. The Vikings were highly skilled seafarers for navigating their ships across rivers and oceans that helped trade extend to all parts of the known world. For example, the Vikings had a dramatic impact on government in Europe by establishing elected parliaments and courts with juries. They facilitated a good amount of cultural diffusion, and were the first to discover North America. In conclusion, it is better to think of the Vikings as a civilization that changed the culture, ethnic makeup, political layout, economic stability of Western Europe, and not to dwell on those they killed.
na. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Stop making that.
Or just throw it.
I feel like that actually hurt. Oh my god. See this. Do I have one here? Look. I can't tell. Do I have one? Oh my god.
Shutting the door and then cut immediately. That's right here. Immediately, that's right here. Oh no, I'll be the first one first. No, just gotta chill out. So we can redo that. We can redo that.
No, dude, we can just start recording and have it cut just from us closing the door to us sneaking back.
No. Well, start recording.
Get back.
Start. Well, so, oh, you want mine?
Bro, take your dog. Is it recording?
Just leave it. Alright. Alright, restart. Who's talking? Restart. Alright.
Get this dog on me, bro.
Come here, go outside.
This is gonna be funny. We're just gonna have beer.
Alright, ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
Oh god.
For everything else, stop bear. Get out of the way, man.
Oh my god. Hey, get the coat.
Oh. Oh my god. I hit him right in the forehead with the saber.
Alright, here you go. Alright. Bash it down.
3, 2, 1, go.
Through everything else. Up, Bear. Get out of the way, Bear.
And get the coat.
My head.
And oh yeah, Vikings didn't have horns on their helmets.